Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me today is Bob Blair, CMO of Jones Soda and Chief Brand Officer of Mary Jones. Thank you very much for joining me today, Bob.
Hey there, happy to be here.
So, you were just at South by Southwest. Can you tell me a little bit about what you were doing at the show?
I ate some barbecue.
Yeah? Anything good?
It's always good. No, it's really nice. South by Southwest is historically a music conference, and as they expand and add different cultural things, they've also added business categories, and it's great to see cannabis represented now on that first weekend, and it was good energy down there. Really cool.
Is Jones Soda still an independent beverage company?
We sure are. We're publicly traded. Yeah, we're an indie soda brand, 26 years now. And we've been doing just a lot of really interesting stuff and a lot of new flavor releases every year still.
Was there any apprehension when moving into cannabis as an independent operator?
We definitely thought about it, and we tested the market, talked to a few key partners. And to be honest, we're always wondering, are we going to get that angry phone call from Walmart, or something, wondering about what we're doing. And everyone's just been resoundingly supportive of this, from our employees, our fans, and all of our retail partners. And in fact, the first couple trade shows we went to as Jones Soda after announcing cannabis, all of our retail partners were just coming up and curious and asking questions and excited about it. And so any apprehensions we had have gone away.
What are the benefits of being sort of a first mover in a category with somebody that has such a footprint as Jones?
It's been interesting. I think everyone enters cannabis experiencing tension at different places, and I think when you're a first mover, but you're bringing a lot of brand power into the conversation, you still have all the pain and difficulty of getting products to market where there's less manufacturing expertise in place, and where, the scale of that part of the category is still under development. Then you have an easier time when you're selling the product into retail and people trying it for the first time. They're very excited about it. So maybe that goes a little bit easier. But then that whole velocity support and building beverage as a bigger part of the category is work we all need to do.
Do you have a personal connection to the cannabis industry at all?
I love weed. I have for a long time, but I love it personally, but I think just my experience is kind of similar to a lot of people's experience is just, it comes into more and more occasions in my life, and the more formats it comes in, the more those occasions make sense with the way we use things.
So were you the driving force at Jones getting into cannabis?
I was luckily the receiving end of that driving force. Before my time, the brand decided to go into cannabis and raise the investment, but they had not developed the brand or the portfolio strategy or any of the business parts of it yet. And so I was brought on to Jones to kickstart the cannabis brand.
Okay. Is the Mary Jones brand, does that operate as sort of a separate entity just to, because it's not federally legal yet? Is there any risk there to the Jones brand?
What we've done is we put a couple firewalls where we think they need to be. So we have different marketing teams. We have different brand execution teams. We keep all of our social channels completely firewalled. We don't use the same payment systems for the two brands, just in case. It's all just, okay. We wouldn't want to do something and misstep on Mary Jones, which, things change and it's so fluid, and accidentally bring down the main side of the business as well. But where it matters, we link the brands up very much. So the flavor scientist of Jones, Sarah, formulates all the Mary Jones products, so they taste exactly the same. We use the same back of house team for obviously our finances and things like that. So we just put the firewalls where they need to be.
During the sort of exploratory phase, did you see that there was a lot of crossover between the average Jones consumer and the cannabis industry? Is that kind of where things got going?
We tested two parts of the market. We looked at what we thought we would be funneling from the Jones consumer base into cannabis. How many of them are existing consumers in dispensaries? How many of them might become? But then we also tested our brand equity with people who don't buy Jones today, but do shop in dispensaries, to see if they knew the brand and were familiar with the brand and would respond to the brand. And obviously we got good signals on both sides.
That the identification on the shelf, I think, just has to be one of the biggest things for your brand, because, everyone is fighting for shelf space at a dispensary. And really, do you find that with a brand like Jones or with Mary Jones that, it's already there? So that way, is it an easier sell to dispensaries to kind of get you guys onto the shelf?
The point of distribution piece has been, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's easier than a lot of new brands would be in the beverage category. We're really proud that we're the fastest growing new brand in California history with our launch. And we got to 275 doors already, which is, incredible. So we're really happy about that. But we have noticed the other part of what you're saying, which is SKU consolidation. And so a lot of our partners that we'll go to, especially the big name ones, are really pretty choiceful about how many brands they allow at similar formats to be on the shelf. And you might be fighting to be one of two or one of one in some cases. And, for us, we're proud that we tend to win those fights, but, it is a tough area for brand SKU consolidation in the shop.
Talking about California, so the company debuted in June 2022. And the growth in California has been incredible despite an overall down market in the state. To what do you attribute that success?
Well, first of all, our sodas are so delicious. I hope you get to try one. For me, I love weed. I love edibles. I love smoking. I like all of it. But to date, the edibles experience, especially in beverage, has been kind of cringy. You either are not getting enough weed to really get high, or you're wincing while you drink it. And there were a few notable exceptions, and I'm not going to pretend there were, but there are not many. The average thing on the shelf was tolerable at best. And we said, hey, what happens if you come in at the mids and only up from a dosage standpoint? So we weren't microdosing seltzers. We're like, hey, let's do a full dose high that goes with our full flavor portfolio, right? We're kind of a full on brand. And Sarah, I mentioned earlier, but she's incredibly good at what she does. And our 100 milligram and our 10 milligram taste exactly like a mainline Jones. And nobody has a soda that's 100 milligrams that tastes like ours. It's incredible. And people can crave it. They can be excited to drink it. And I think that's a lot of what it is. And then beverage overall is a really cool way to get high. We all like drinking our alcohol. It's a really fun way to get high. And I think people are just responding to that format generally and are excited when they see something in there that they want to try. And so I think we're part of that zeitgeist a little bit.
So how did Sarah pull that off in terms of maintaining that flavor profile, even though, the dosage is 10 milligrams or 100 milligrams?
Totally. I'll tell you the exact recipe. You put a little in the no, I'm not going to tell you our secret recipe, but she uses her food science background to do some food science, and that's okay. I think that's what's important.
And I wasn't trying to pull the curtain back. It was just like, is it that simple? Okay.
Yeah, it took a lot of effort to do it, but I think that's good. And I don't think a lot of brands that enter cannabis are coming with 25 years of flavor equity, an in-house flavor scientist, a lot of background in formulating 3-5 new flavors a year. This is what we do every day at Jones, is make new flavors of soda. So for us to do it with additives in it, no big deal.
So you're planning on moving into Washington next as soon as Q2 this year. What has the transition been like in Washington, and why is it, ever since the announcement that you were moving into the state, has there been any particular reason that it hasn't been on shelves as quick as possible?
Yeah, what was interesting is when we launched, it was really important for us to get the portfolio locked in and really right. And we picked California knowing it was the most competitive edibles market in the world, quite literally, and that it would be really hard maybe to instantly be number one there or do anything like that because of how competitive it was. But we knew that there was a large footprint of existing capability, that it was in the backyard of some of our emulsion partners, that it was in the backyard of some of our flavor houses, that we had multiple manufacturers to interview and talk to right out of the gate to co-op or co-man our products. And so we thought, if there's an area that we want to pilot and prototype and make sure we get this right, let's do it where the capability already exists so that we're working on our product and we can export a successful formulation, SOP, manufacturing spec to these other markets where there's less partners to choose from, even at the beginning. And sometimes you even have to help build that capability.
Speaking of building that capability, because Jones Soda has such a reputation for flavor innovation, how do you vet your contract manufacturing partners to make sure that, nothing dings the brand after it reaches the shelf?
It's awesome. We have our in-house team. Shout out to Nick, our head of operations. He goes out there and interviews any manufacturer that we might use. He's got our whole full spec, anything from carbonation levels to acceptable child-resistant tops that need to be affixed to, how they're going to work with our packaging and labels. And so, it's a full onslaught, and it's a lot more than I thought I would know about soda manufacturing if you would have asked me 2 years ago. But now, I know just enough to be dangerous, and I understand how important the different parts are to make sure you get to a good end product.
So did you have, is that how you're going into subsequent states? Like you recently announced Michigan and Nevada. You mentioned, you announced a partnership with Max Labs. Do you have a partnership with them in California and Washington also, or are they new contract?
They're our Michigan and Nevada partner.
Oh, okay. So who have you announced who you're working with in Washington and California?
Yeah. We're working with Compcana, which is the parent company of Ray's Lemonade.
Oh, okay. Is a new product category initially immune to market conditions, with enough heat?
No, I wish. No. I think there's still a good part of the consumer base that's shopping the category leaf first. There's a good part that's shopping price for potency. There's a large group that it's market conditions are affecting the overall pool of people who are even walking over to that part of the store, or even what stores are willing to take a risk on what for them feels like maybe a risky product category. Not even they're even worried about the brand. They're like, beverage? I'm still not sold on beverage, and so market conditions, I think, drive a lot of the willingness of all the partners to explore and invest in growth, as opposed to, dig into what they know they can make existing known money on.
In the beverage category in California, how competitive are you on price?
We play it at both ends. We're incredibly competitive on our wholesale and retail pricing, where despite being the arguably biggest brand on the shelf, we've refused to price at a premium. We put ourselves right at parity with the other brands in the same format. We want to win on flavor, and I think that's great. On the other end of the spectrum, I've been told by everyone who's been working in the cannabis category for the last many years that I am being completely stingy on my promo product allocation, and that I am not flooding the market with free product to buy my way into new doors, like other brands have admitted to doing in many interviews recently. We don't buy our scale. Mm-hmm. We sell in, we make money on every bottle. So we're very happy to build a solid business that makes money today and that we're going to scale profitably.
Well, I mean, that can't be a surprise that, people are looking for more freebies.
I love that they're looking.
So when you're handing off a recipe to a contract manufacturer or a partner, how do you protect the IP when doing that?
Well, the good news is we have it all trademarked and protected. And, despite federal lack of protection on cannabis, we're already federally protected under our Jones marks. And so, if someone wants to go try to rip us off, they can. However, we also ship it in a completely finished tote of all of our proprietary flavors. They're all locked up in a syrup tote that we ship to our manufacturers. And we give them a dilution ratio and we give them an SOP on the carbonation, but kind of the secret sauce is locked in.
Okay. Have you worked with Max Labs before, or will this be the first partnership?
This will be our first consumer facing thing, but we've been talking to them for a little bit during the courting process, as you can imagine.
Understood. And it did not, in the announcement, you had plans that you're going to expand with Max into Ohio, Florida, and Texas. Are those carefully calculated markets, or is it just going to be easier with Max?
I think the wording of the press release is that Max Labs is expanding into those markets, and we look forward to, if they get their foot there, obviously we'd be thrilled to follow them. So that's their expansion strategy, and we fully support it.
One of the things, and I apologize for the oversight there. One thing that kind of stood out was I was surprised that you guys weren't in Colorado. I figured that you would have a huge footprint there. Has there been any particular?
I know. Can you call somebody for me?
Yeah, I'll start making calls after this.
I'm not going to name names. But I met with two different partners that I thought would be slam dunk. And the day after our meeting, they called and asked if we wanted to buy them.
Oh,
it turns out that people aren't doing as good as you thought they were sometimes. So yeah, I think no one currently has been in the position to kick us off into Colorado. But if any of your viewers or listeners think they're the one for the job, I encourage you to reach out to me instantly.
What other markets kind of excite you as they come online, or that you think might be a great fit for the brand?
It's a really hard for me to think of any recreational market I don't want to be in. I live in Chicago, and I would love to be here. And what's interesting to me is you can go to a lot of different rec markets and realize as you get there how scaled and big that category has become and how many shoppers are there. And, I visited my father-in-law who lives in Medford, Oregon. And I went to a few dispensaries there, and I instantly got jealous that I wasn't on shelves there. I just think cannabis is a beautiful culture that's part of small towns and big towns and all this stuff. And if there's a brand that should be on every single one of those shelves, it's us. And so we've got a model that makes it easy for partners to take us into markets. And we have every intention of being in every international rec market as soon as I can get it there.
Yep. I mean, does it just come down to finding the right dance partner?
Yes, that's all it is. And if cannabis beverage wasn't such an emerging manufacturing capability, we'd already be in more places. If carbonating those beverages wasn't such a new thing, if carbonating above the spec of seltzer wasn't such a thing, I'd already be in 10 more states right now. But the truth is that I didn't realize that Jones was such a special product formulation. I just like the way it tastes. But then when you take that into cannabis, you realize that we're asking people to make a product at a really high quality spec that maybe they weren't set up for right away. And that's what's been our delay, really, is getting partners that are ready to go.
What do you mean by carbonating above the seltzer spec?
Well, given the name of your podcast or your whatever this is, I don't know what format it takes at the end of it, but I don't know how in the weeds you are on manufacturing and carbonation stuff, but I didn't know anything about this 2 years ago. I just know how I like the bubbles that tickle my nose. And I always rated things on a scale of nothing to Topo Chico. That was my rating.
Okay.
But as I've gotten into it, what I realized is that, Jones comes at a pretty high carbonation spec, like a really powerful soda, tends to be in the mid 3.5 type thing of a carbonation level. Whereas beer kind of is like 2.9, and a lot of the seltzers that you get on the market are more like beer and they have a light fizz. Whereas soda, when you drink a soda, you want that powerful fizzing sensation on your tongue. It's part of the flavor experience. And as we realized, and we did sample our products at lower carbonation levels, we realized we cared a lot. We cared a lot about the carbonation level, and we made it a mandatory of all of our partners to be able to hit it.
So, is it a spec that the partner just has to hit, or are you working with partners to kind of
help them.
Bring them up? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, we'll help them. Oh, of course. We're nice. We'll help them. It's not a test. It's just about the right SOP and the right equipment. That's all.
Speaking of equipment, is there specific equipment that you want used to manufacture your product, or does it not matter as long as they hit the spec?
It's just about the spec, in a certain quality level, obviously. And I don't know enough about that. That's where I trust Nick to go and handle all that kind of stuff for us. But the hitting the spec is the most important thing, and doing it responsibly and at quality and all that kind of stuff. If somebody needs equipment, we're happy to point them as some preferred partners.
Were you surprised that other beverage manufacturers haven't tested the market yet?
I'm not surprised with where we are right now. We, as Jones Soda, occupy a really unique spot in the beverage category as the biggest indie brand. Mm-hmm. If you look at the brands just a little bit bigger than us, you start to see big soda, and if you look at the brands smaller than us, you tend to see regional players. So we're in this really neat, interesting spot. if you looked at the brands bigger than us in soda, I think they would find it more high risk to go into this category with their existing marks. They might go and make a brand, but that's not where the power is, right? The power is going there with yourself. It's being yourself and going into cannabis. And I think because we're the biggest indie, we're uniquely positioned to try it. And maybe our success makes a couple of them try it, and I wouldn't mind if they waited a little longer. But currently when we go head to head against Big Soda, we win on flavor. We just lose on scale. And so right now we love being a first mover, but eventually I'm going to have to win on flavor against whoever's on the shelf next to me. And I look forward to that. But for now we have a first mover and it's kind of fun.
When it comes to flavor innovation, what do you guys do in-house when it comes to developing a new flavor profile?
Oh my God, I have this box right next to me here with jugs of different things that have been shipped to me and all sorts of stuff. It's unbelievable. It's so fun. I love getting samples in the mail. Sometimes we do, remote things. Sometimes we meet at a flavor house and do a lot of stuff, but Sarah drives it. Sarah drives our formulation work, and it's been great. We have a new couple flavors coming out this summer. In the summer, we're going to do the first time we're syncing a new flavor release between mainline Jones and cannabis at the same time. So that'll be really fun too.
Will you have any unique flavors that are specific to cannabis?
I've decided for the time being, no. And the reason for that is that Jones has 150 flavors in our flavor library from over 25 years that are all so fun that why wouldn't I reach into the well and pull out another fan favorite? And the Jones Soda brand does 3 seasonal releases, new ones every year. So there's always an innovation pipeline. Eventually, if there's something that makes a lot of sense, we can. But I think there's more power in syncing across that kind of flavor equity.
I didn't realize that you had 150 flavors. That's incredible.
If you go on the Jones Wikipedia, it's hilarious to look at all the flavors that have happened over the years, especially in the late 90s. They got a little nutty.
Well, and I understand that that's Sarah's team, but internally, is it sort of if you have an idea for a potential, because some of the flavors are out there. I mean, didn't you guys do the Thanksgiving dinner flavor?
Oh yeah. Thanksgiving dinner. And then we brought turkey and gravy back the last 2 years. It was an unbelievable thing. Well, first of all, I'm sure you know this already, but there is a flavor submission button on our website. Anybody can send us a flavor idea anytime. And we do look at them all. It's hilarious. Most of them are gross. So maybe some of our people could stop sending us gross flavor ideas and send us some more delicious ones. But nobody needs to send hot dog water again. Okay. We've got but then our internal team is constantly pitching ideas. I think it's a deluge of ideas that are always being floated around, but it's fun. It's fun. It's what leads to right now. Key lime pie is the one that's out in the market, and it's great because it's not just key lime flavor, but you get that graham cracker crust in it too. It's really kind of a really interesting experience.
Has anything submitted from the flavor submission button made it to the shelf?
I'm almost positive, but I'm worried I'm going to be wrong. But I'm almost positive the one we put out in Q4 around Christmas time, Sugar Cookie, was a fan submission. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts on federal legalization, and would that change your go-to-market strategy at all?
Yeah. Federal will unlock a couple things more, but the repercussions will be big. One will be the banking will get fixed, which will make it easier to do transactions. Obviously, that affects a lot of what we do on the back end, but it will affect consumer-facing stuff too. So I think that'll be interesting. The bigger deal will be supply chain, obviously. Right now, every state that we're in, we're manufacturing in that state. Cannabis has to stay in that state. We tend to bottleneck a lot of things, in the state and replicate a lot of things. It's inevitable that when it goes to federal legalization, that your distillate will come from the best place that distillate gets made cheapest. Your co-manning will happen in a few centered regional areas. Your warehousing will be hubs like Amazon does. And there'll just be massive efficiencies related to being able to drive your product across state lines or drive your supply chain across state lines. I think that'll be the biggest unlock. And hopefully what that will do is allow more brand consistency, allow a little price, to reduction, because as much as, we're all just playing in the same game, I think consumers would love it if the end product was a little more affordable, And I just think it's inevitable that's what will happen, eventually.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see some tests of some multi-state confederacies before that.
Oh, interesting.
I read some articles where there's some there's the ability for two governors to make a deal and make a dual state deal or something. It's a legal possibility. And so that would make sense for certain bordering states to make partnerships to allow innovation. And I think we're bound to see that happen first.
Interesting. No, I hadn't heard that concept before. I think that would be, that could be a game changer.
Yeah. So I don't know. I listened to all the crazy podcasts about cannabis business and see where people are thinking there's angles to take, but we'll see if it works. I don't know. These are all maybe not as legal as the one as I heard them to be, but I think everyone's looking for something to make it work a little bit better.
So when it comes to banking, because Jones has, everything, all those efficiencies established in the legal market, do people internally wind up getting really frustrated with how they have to do business in cannabis?
I think the entire cannabis industry, and I don't speak for everyone, but I do run into the same people at all the different trade shows who tend to, share some of the things. I think everyone gets why it's a pain in the ass, but I think everyone's waiting for it not to be so hard to do things that are easy to do in non-cannabis, and okay. I think that's the thing is you could start a business tomorrow making the best knit hats that anyone's ever seen, and it would still be hard, let alone introducing all this stuff, And so I think people are eager to compete on the merits that business is already kind of done on and not have to deal with the incremental pain.
Well, our producer, Eric, is a sucker for a good beanie, so he'd be on top of that market.
Hey, we just launched our new bucket hats on Jones Soda Caps for Gear page, so tell them to go look.
Oh, right. I'll get him on that. The new Cricket IPL is coming on, and we need a good bucket hat to attend. So when it comes to, sorry, you got me on hats and completely flustered me. I didn't see that one coming. About your product line. Of the product line that you make in the cannabis industry, you said that you're a connoisseur. What's your favorite?
Of our stuff?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I am loving, we have a 10 milligram single serving, and then we have our 100 milligram that comes in a tall boy, which, I know officially is multi-serve, but most of the people who buy that still crush it single serve. Those people are nuts. But the thing is, we made this mixing syrup, and I know there's a lot of big high dose syrups that used to be on the market that are slowly being eradicated for legality reasons. And then there's these shooters that are out there that are like a 5-hour energy drink for cannabis. This is neither of those things. This is truly a versatility play for mixing mocktails, cocktails, topping ice creams with it, hold on. I got it. It's right here.
Okay.
Mary Jones mixing syrup.
Okay.
And so this is so good. And it's got this nice, oh my God. It's got this nice viscosity, close to the tongue. So I didn't know if people would love this or not. I didn't know if people would find the use for it, but I knew it was delicious and I knew I wanted it out there. So we put it out with low expectations, and it's selling so good. And it turns out people love it on premise. Oh. And it's doing really good at consumption lounges and at Woody Harrelson's dispensary, The Woods. We do Mary Jones Mondays there. And we're doing these bottle service trays where this comes on a tray with cups and stuff and mainline Jones. So you can mix your own cocktails at the table. And we're selling it to these bartenders who do all the private parties around California that have cannabis bars at them. And they're buying it from us. Then they're making drinks and selling drinks at the bar, and I didn't realize, I knew it was delicious. I knew I wanted it out, but I didn't realize it would be a catalyst for other businesses to go use to make money with. And I just love that. And so I'm absolutely thrilled about this product. And then I'm super excited about the one that's coming out next, which is our Fizzy Tabs. It's our infused version of our carbonated candy. and it's just, mwah, oh, it's
The I got to say the mocktail market truly shocked me. Like
yeah, it's something, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah.
it's out there. Like even if you just get into the non-alc mixed drink space, it's blowing up, and then it has a relationship to the cannabis infused space. So I think it's really neat.
Okay, when it comes to a mocktail using this syrup, what's your favorite way to mix it?
I have been going, see, first of all, I love cannabis and alcohol. I think a lot of brands have been scared to talk about those two things together. But like, God, cannabis and alcohol is great. None of my friends just, are worried about mixing those things together.
Right.
I love berry lemonade syrup with a gin drink.
Oh man.
Gin and tonic with berry lemonade. Oh, you are just killing me with how good that is.
You are preaching to the gin choir right now.
And then I was at a friend's house and I made an old fashioned, but instead of the cherries and stuff, I used our root beer syrup.
Okay. Really?
Root beer syrup with whiskey is so good.
That sounds phenomenal, and you're really mapping out the rest of my day here.
Oh, you gotta get your hands on some of these.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I know that you got to get out of here soon. Before we leave, is there anything else that we might have left out, or anything in particular you want to make sure the Cannabis Equipment News audience knows about yourself or Mary Jones?
That we put your picture on our bottle. So please go on our website, send us your pictures to get on the Jones soda bottles or the Mary Jones bottles. Two different entry points. But it's a fun, beautiful romance of the brand that, you can send your photos in and they get picked to put on our label. So please do it.
Have you picked anyone from the cannabis industry in particular that, because of their place in the industry?
We keep toying with that, but we haven't done it yet. But we just had the first round of Mary Jones labels we had to make before we announced the brand existing. So I had to go into the submissions to Jones Soda and pick the ones that I thought looked most fun. And then because I didn't want to use them on a cannabis brand without talking to the person first, we personally wrote all the people that sent us those pictures and said, hey, we're coming up with this Mary Jones brand. Don't tell everybody yet. But can we use your picture on the launch labels?
Yeah.
You should have seen these responses we got. It was like all exclamation points. Yes! We were so excited. But that's how we did the first round. And so then it was only kind of, in the last few months or whatever that we got to go pick new ones for all of the next round. And it was the first time that we were picking from pictures that were sent to Mary Jones as opposed to Jones. And it's just, well, our Jones fans kind of seem like stoners anyway. It's neat to see the flavor of photos that start to come in. And we've been telling the bud tenders at the shops we work with to send them in and stuff. But we've been doing a lot of stuff like that. But this is maybe the other thing we should talk about.
Okay.
We launched Mary Zine. It's out in California. You can pick it up for free at any dispensary that carries us. But what's inside is only submitted content by the cannabis community. And we publish it and we share stuff from them. And then when we meet a bud tender that has a really cool side project that's out in the world doing stuff. So let me see here. Oh, I love this guy. Gibram Chavez. Mm-hmm. He is in this Chicano soul and roll band that are so freaking good. So what we did is we promoted his band and we interviewed him and we talked to him about his band and we write a profile about his band. But he's, he works at Planet 13. Yeah. So he's one of the guys that carries, supports our brand. And so we go through, this is one of the bud tenders who went on a photojournalism trip to Oaxaca, Mexico.
Okay.
And so we just have so much fun doing this and, supporting some of the different staff and trade in a consumer facing publication that's designed to be, something entertaining to do while you're using our products.
How did you come up with Mary Zine?
I'm a big fan of the 90s zine culture from the rock and roll scene, like Maximum Rock and Roll and stuff. And I always thought it'd be fun to do something. And we were joking around one time around the office that, much love to High Times, but you wouldn't want to read any of those while you're high. It's all about politics and money and stuff. And I'm like, what happened to stuff that'd be fun while you're actually high? And we were joking around about how we should launch a zine. And like, you know what? We can. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's It's cool because it's just you're building a culture around the brand.
Totally. How to turn one of our bottles into a bong.
That's great. Just DIY.
The scene is hand drawn by an artist named Plastic Crime Wave, who publishes the Intergalactic Zoo dossier on Drag City Records, writes the Buried Treasures column and Secret History of Music columns that get published in the Chicago Reader and the Village Voice in New York. And so we were collaborating with a legendary zine creator to make this too. And so we're just, when we interview one of the bud tenders, he interviews them and then he draws their picture and then he writes out the interview.
Oh man, that's awesome. That is really cool.
Yeah. So anyway, we are having a blast.
I mean, that is very apparent. And, I'm jealous. It's you clearly love what you do. And, just keep leaning into it, man. You're doing great work.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it.
Hey, man, thanks for the time.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com. Email the podcast in the subject line. Subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. For Bob Blair, Chief Brand Officer of Mary Jones, I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.